Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank President Biden for the tremendous honor of being here today and inviting me once again to the White House. It is my pleasure to be able to talk to you about the crime reductions in Detroit, and I look forward to hearing from my colleagues about their crime reductions as well. In Detroit, collaboration is our strength. It's the biggest reasons for our crime reduction. The support of our Mayor, Mike Duggan, with his leadership on negotiations that gave our officers a $10,000 raise, to the strategies that he deployed post-pandemic, bringing partners to the table to reopen our courts. Many of us saw our courts closed down as a result of COVID. Cases were backlogged, and it was through his leadership and our partnerships that we were able to get our courts back open and work collaboratively to get cases prosecuted. Our U.S. Attorney, Dawn Eisen, has been a tremendous partner to us. Our One Detroit initiative has focused on reducing crime in the most violent neighborhoods in Detroit while providing resources to better the quality of life for our most vulnerable residents. Our Deputy Mayor, Todd Bettison, who leads our city's innovative Community Violence Initiative, which is our CVI. The program is called Shot Stoppers, which is supported by the American Rescue Plan dollars. While early, the CVI has shown promise, and we look forward to seeing the impact that CVI will have, accompanied with our strategies on crime, to further reduce crime. Our partnerships with our local, state, federal partners, our prosecutor, our Wayne County executive, our sheriff, our judges, our state police, and certainly ATF and FBI. Our American Rescue Plan funds have been a tremendous game changer for Detroit. It's helped us reach these historic lows in crime. We've got an 18% reduction in homicides, our lowest since 1966 last year. A 16% reduction in non-fatal shootings, a 34% reduction in carjackings. Our American Rescue Funds have helped us retrain officers, to develop our training center, to bring state-of-the-art training to our officers, and to build bridges in our community by looking at best practices around the country and deploying those best practices in the city of Detroit. Our investments in crime-fighting tools such as new patrol vehicles dedicated to gun violence, allowing officers to respond to these crimes in progress and oftentimes in less than 5 minutes after receiving the call. Our quality of life issues, blight and abandoned vehicles. We've used our American Rescue Funds to purchase speed signs. We are seeing an uptick in our community with drag racing and drifting and speeding through our neighborhoods, and they have been valuable for us deploying in our communities to help combat those problems. New job opportunities. We've hired a number of different new jobs that allows us to use civilian professionals, analysts, directors that were otherwise being filled by police officers. We're able to put those officers on the street and use those civilian professionals to fill those roles. But something that's near and dear to my heart as a trained mental health professional myself is our mental health co-response. COVID brought something that we never thought we would see in law enforcement, and that is a tremendous uptick in mental health crisis. Our mental health co-response, working with trained and licensed mental health professionals, allows us to put a police officer who is trained on the street with an actual mental health professional to aid and assist us in responding to those runs. In addition to that, we have a mental health professional in our 911 dispatch center that's able to give immediate services to those folks when they call in and they're in crisis. City of Detroit handled 14,000 mental health runs in 2023, and we're now looking at approximately 38 runs per day, so we're on track to hit that number again. Our mental health co-response unit works collaboratively with our mental health training center and handling those runs. 2024, we're building on that success, but let me be clear, we are not declaring victory against crime. We still have way too many guns in our community, way too much violent crime in our community, but we're going to continue to work collaboratively with our partners to further reduce crime in 2024. Already, as of yesterday, we are looking at an 18% reduction in homicides for 2024, as opposed to last year this time, 30% reduction in non-fatal shootings, a 47% reduction in carjackings, and we are focused on building on the progress that we've already had We're going to continue to work in our communities. We will be deploying a program called Serve Then Protect, where every single officer that comes through the Detroit Police Academy will work a community service program in our neighborhoods, whether it be a footbeat program, whether it be aiding a senior before they can patrol in a scout car. Super excited about that program, and we're going to continue to expand our mental health co-response. We are all grateful for the support of our partners at the White House. Thank you. On behalf of every member of the City of Detroit Police Department, I thank you, sir. We work to reduce crime and improve public safety, and we're going to continue. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce the 46th President of the United States, President Joe Biden.
Good job. Chief White, thank you for that introduction. And you know, every day you and your fellow officers put on that shield, walk out the door, and your families worry about receiving that phone call. But thank you for your service, and I mean this sincerely, your sacrifice, and sacrifice of that of your families, not just you, your families as well. And thanks to the law enforcement and community leaders here today who have helped bring down violent crime rates in their cities to historic lows. That's right, we're about to talk about what's going to happen now. You know, you just heard from the chief, and they salute these cities are making historic progress here. Last year, the United States had one of the lowest rates of all violent crimes in more than 50 years. Murder, rape, aggravated assault, robbery, all dropped sharply, along with burglary, property crime, and theft. And it matters. As president, public safety and crime reduction is a top priority for my administration and for me, and it has been for a long time, back when I was chairman of the Judiciary Committee. You know, since day one, my administration has been working with law enforcement, mayors, and community leaders to do what we know works to keep people and communities safe. As was referenced, during the pandemic, states and cities saw violent crime rising, and their budgets were strained as they faced deep cuts in law enforcement and public safety. But we stepped up, thanks to My American Rescue Plan, which I might note not a single person on the other team voted for. We provided $350 billion that was available to deal with these issues. You know, and the fact is that we find ourselves, we could use this money to keep law enforcement on the beat, communities safe from violence. We invested $15 billion to make their communities safer, and we added billions more in grants to help. The Justice Department invested in law enforcement and community violence interruption programs. Because the American Rescue Plan, we have the largest federal investment in fighting crime and preventing violent crime at any time in our history. And that's a big deal. You know, we know being in law enforcement is harder than ever, but and we expect you to be everything to everybody. That's why we've invested in more crisis responders who work alongside police officers, as the Chief said, mental health and social workers who respond to nonviolent crimes as well. More investment in recruiting, retaining, and training officers. More investments in violent prevention to get guns off the street. And on top of that, we're hiring more U.S. attorneys, recruiting more U.S. Marshals, and investing more in technology and training to clear the court backlog, solve murders, and to deal with apprehending violent fugitives. And we're also working hard to ensure bonds of trust between officers and the people you all serve. My budget calls for more officers in the street, trained in community policing, walking the beat, working hard hand in hand with community leaders and partners and to gain public trust and advance public safety. Chiefs in this room know that when their communities trust the police, we can solve a hell of a lot more crimes a hell of a lot faster. That's why I signed the historic executive order to advance executive and accountable community policing. And it's very effective so far. You know, and I'm going to continue to call on Congress to pass the George Floyd Policing and Justice, the Justice and Policing Act, so we can make police reform the law of the land. We also made historic investments in proven strategies to interrupt and prevent crime and violence in the first place. These programs use trusted messengers, including people people who are in the neighborhood, people who have been incarcerated and released now, people who have been through it, people who know what they're talking about. And we have a track record of reducing violent crime as a consequence of that by 30 to 60% where those programs exist. And finally, my plan goes after the scourge of gun violence in America. I've taken more executive actions to stop the flow of illegal guns than any other administration in history. And we beat the NRA when I signed the most significant gun safety law in nearly 30 years. And we're going to finish the job. We're going to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines next time around because it has to be done. I formed the first ever White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention, and I thank Vice President Harris for overseeing this important effort. Let me close with this. Our plan's working, but we still have much more to do, as everyone at this table knows. And that's why we're here today. My administration is going to choose progress over politics, and communities across the country are safer as a result of that policy. There is no greater responsibility than to ensure the safety of families, children, communities, and our nation. And with that, I want to turn this over to Neera Tandon, my domestic policy advisor, and we'll get this discussion going, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to invite the rest to exit before we start our discussion.
Mr. President, how did your physical go, Mr. President? How did your physical go this morning? Your physical, sir.
No,